Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. So happy to welcome Jill Sullivan. She's from a new ministry, Gwen's House, and we're going to be finding out more about that. Good morning.
Good morning, Susie.
New ministry, but not the first time you've been with us, Jill. First of all, some folks may remember your name, some will not, but you have a very amazing story. And let's just start right there. Jill, tell us a little bit about you and how you got where you are.
All right, I would love to. Just thank you so much for having me back today. The last time I was here, I shared my story of how 2001 I was incarcerated in a very broken place. I was pregnant. I dated a drug dealer that beat me up, and some women from Faith Family Church had come in and just shared the gospel with me. And I just decided I was tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I needed Jesus. I knew about him in my head, but I wanted to know him in my heart. And so I gave my life to him. I radically started following him. I got out of prison. I stopped hanging out with the crowd that I was with. I got super involved at Faith Family Church, even joined into the prison ministry and got to be on the other side of it. Went to school to become a chaplain and now work for the state of Ohio. And here I am 17 years later, just getting to follow my passion of helping women find Jesus while they're incarcerated.
And the last time I spoke to you, you were serving as prison chaplain. Are you still in that role?
I am still in that role. I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
It's amazing to me because I think a lot of us have in the back of our heads, oh, I'd love to do prison ministry, but I don't know how I would begin to relate to someone. Yet someone was able to come in and connect with you. Did that, first of all, surprise you, your response to that message of the gospel?
I think more than anything, when you're incarcerated, you just feel like you're so worthless, and that when people come in and they care about you, it surprises you and you wonder why. And so I think that it was just that they loved me and they were there for me. It made me want what they had. They had a joy that I needed and a happiness that I needed. And so I just grabbed a hold of it. And that's how the ladies are today.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be so hard. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to be, and I know you say you're feeling broken and worthless, but there is a culture, isn't there, in prison that would be very, very hardening, I would think, to toughen people up in order to survive that culture and make it even more difficult to penetrate that, although only God, but he certainly is able and wants to, is able to penetrate that hardness. But can you talk about the shell that may form around a person while they are incarcerated?
I do believe it has a lot to do with culture and a lot to do with even just so much brokenness and so much sadness and people just using drugs to fill that void and it just being a lifestyle for them. I just believe, like even for me, just getting to know Jesus personally helped me to know that I didn't want to follow that life anymore. I didn't want to be around those people anymore. And I think more than anything, it's getting the women who are incarcerated or men to see that that's not the life that they want and there is a whole nother way of life.
Yeah. Well, because we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely.
And if your reality is only that, this introduction to an entire new reality has got to be mind-blowing, yes?
It is mind-blowing. And then to know that just to get away from the people that you've always known, just those were the people that I knew when I was incarcerated. It was the drug dealers. It was the bad people. They were the ones that paid the attention to me. And so I needed to completely get away from it, and I did. And they can too.
Let's talk about that. It would be very difficult, I think, to break up with your entire support group. How did you go about that? You just say, no, I'm sorry, I cannot hang around you any longer as long as you are doing this.
Well, I knew that if I continued hanging out around that group that I was going to end up dead. A lot of those people that I ran with, they've overdosed, they've passed on. And I just knew that there was something that was life-giving about the people at Faith Family. And I just radically wanted to follow after that. And I did. And I called that my home. And those people became my family.
Yes. Has anyone tried to pull you back into it? Well, not now that you're the chaplain working for the prison, but was it difficult? Did they try and talk you out of this? Like, oh, come on.
I mean, absolutely. I feel like they were, what do you think you're better than us now that you go to church? And it wasn't really that I felt like I was better. I just didn't want that life anymore for me or my kids. I didn't.
Yeah, there is, for someone who's not come to that point, the idea of being forgiven and feeling that mercy and knowing that mercy, it's pretty foreign. It's a foreign concept, isn't it?
It is a foreign concept. And to be honest, when a lot of the ladies that get out of prison, they go to local churches, and the churches aren't really warm and welcome to them if they have tattoos or if they have a past. And it makes it difficult for them to continue in their relationship with Jesus after they leave. That's been a difficult thing for me to watch as a chaplain.
Well, let's talk about your role here, because yes, what are people's response to you when you say, I have been where you are? They've got to be in shock.
They really are in shock. And I don't necessarily walk around telling everybody, hey, guess what? I went to prison. But even with my role at the prison, a lot of the staff there, they don't know my background. And so, if they would say anything that would just be off color, I'd say, wait a minute. And they're, why do you care so much about them? I am them. Mm-hmm. I am them. We're all one decision away from doing something really stupid. A lot of these women are great people who just made a really bad decision because of a really bad situation.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't we say all of us are in that boat?
Absolutely.
All of us have been in some kind of prison of some kind at some point. They might not have been steel bars, but we all have been set free by the same person. Would that make sense? As I say that, does that make any sense?
It makes so much sense. And it's something that I've said to my husband a bunch of times, that you don't have to be in prison to be in prison. Even when my cancer diagnosis showed up, it felt like a prison. It felt like I'm alone. What am I going to do? It just felt hopeless and helpless. And I felt like during that time that the Lord just kind of reeled me in and reminded me of how important I was to him, and that he wasn't leaving, and that he was healer. And I felt like he led me to the right doctors. He led me to the right people. And I walked through that for about 2 years, and I got to go back for my last scan, and I was completely cancer free. And my oncologist told me that type of cancer would never go away. And it did.
God is so good. Let's just pause on that for 1 second. My goodness. Jill, I hope you're going to write a book someday.
It's funny you say that. I really do feel like I'm supposed to write a book, and I just feel like I have so much to write. I don't want to write an encyclopedia. So the Lord's going to have to help me with that.
He will. You have now a husband, a family. Tell me about your family.
So I have a husband. We've been together for 15 years. Our family owns restaurants, and he runs them. I have 3 sons, which they keep me really close to Jesus. They're 16, 13, and 12 boys.
Boys will do that to you.
They really will.
And once they hit driving age, you're on your knees quite a bit.
One of mine has his temps, and so I'm well aware. But they're just great kids, and they keep me very focused on remembering that my family is my first ministry.
Yes. Tell us the restaurants so we can all patronize them.
So our family owns Poncho Southwestern Grill on 241 in Green. Tuesdays, tacos are 99 cents, so we encourage you to stop in. Tim's Tavern in Canton.
Yay.
We, 61 years of our famous fish. We've owned it for about 3.5 years. So I encourage people to head on out. We have the same recipe, same fish. We love to be there. We love our customers.
We love to be there as well. Gwen's house. All right. So you were at a conference last time we spoke to you over the phone, actually, and you felt that God was telling you something. What was that?
I really did. I felt like the Lord has been really just calling me to bridge the gap between incarceration and real life, because a lot of women get out, they find Christ while they're incarcerated. And then this in-between time frame between being in prison and then actually being in a normal life. It's like they're thrown into there's really shelters. They can go to shelters. There's recovery houses. A lot of them they tell me are filled with drugs. And so I just felt like I wanted to have a place where they would be safe. It would be faith-based, and it would be a place they could transition after incarceration or even a domestic violence situation. I have a lot of women who are just trying to get their life back after a domestic violence situation.
Mm-hmm. Did you find it difficult to transition?
I did find it difficult to transition, difficult to find employers that would hire me. difficult to just find your way and get someone to rent to you as a landlord, and it's really cool to be on the other end of that now because, me and my husband, we are landlords as well, and we're employers.
Yes.
So to be on the other end and just give people a chance, give people some hope.
I bet people love that. They know, wow, you're going to help me find a job as well and get on my feet. I mean, do you do job training with some of these young women?
We do. We do job training. And then for our restaurants, it's not always a good fit for them to, work in the restaurant industry, but is even to connect them with other local business people that are willing to hire them.
Right, because you'd be chamber members, obviously. You would know what's out there and what's available out there.
Absolutely.
Are there some businesses that are more open and more likely to give a second chance and a job to someone who's been incarcerated?
There are, and because I go to a bigger church at Faith Family, and there's a lot of business owners there, I just kind of reach out on social media, whether it be through my personal page, Jill Suddenly, or through my Gwen's page, my Facebook page, and just ask, if I have a girl that's looking for something specific.
It just seems that certain things need to happen, as you were saying, that you just can't jump from incarcerated, where really your every moment is structured,
right,
to suddenly the freedom, and sometimes we don't know quite what to do with all that freedom, but also not freedom, because if you don't have an income, automatically you are in another kind of prison altogether.
You absolutely are.
So what do you recommend as far as making that transition? How can just the average person help these people get back into society and become productive citizens again?
I think being a part of your local church and just seeing the need, and there are people out there that they need help in all sorts of areas, whether it be a job, whether it just be being a friend, a good sober support network. Being in Ohio, we lead the nation in the opioid epidemic,
yes.
And so all of these people are passing away from heroin. Just being a sober support network to these people it's huge. It means everything. They just need normal friends that don't use drugs.
You said something that was a little bit disturbing back there, that the churches are not welcoming to some of these people. That makes me so sad, that a person would walk in maybe with some piercings and tattoos, and that as a church body, the one thing we all have in common is we know what it's like to have made a horrible mistake and be forgiven. I mean, we all, other than that, there's not a cookie cutter Christian. We all know what it's like to mess up and be forgiven. So what can we do to say to our churches to welcome these people when they come to our doors?
Honestly, Susie, it's been heart-wrenching because of so many of the ladies will reach out to me and they'll say, I went there and I didn't feel welcome. I felt like it was like their clique and I couldn't fit in. And so I just tell them, I say, keep going to a place, to a local church until you feel welcome, and where they're preaching the word of God, because that's truly what's going to set them free. And, where they feel like it's home.
A lot of churches have prison ministry. Is not part of the prison ministry also then, once a person gets out of prison, to minister to that person? And what would you recommend to churches to be able to strengthen, to shore up in that area?
I think having life groups, having small groups where the women or the men can connect in some capacity. I know that we have like an addiction group at Faith Family. It's on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. It's open to all. Just having those groups so that they can learn how to live their life together with people, like in community. I think that's really important.
We're speaking with Jill Sullivan, former inmate, current prison chaplain, and the founder of Gwen's House. And we're going to be back with her after these words. You're listening to Our Community.